To see everybody. Week one, we're here and excited. Um, looking forward to kind of doing this on a weekly basis and just talking football, talking Vikings, talking defense. I thought we had a very good training camp. It's been a while since I talked to you guys. Obviously, we made roster cuts since then. Those were some kind of tough discussions, but we've got the group that we have. We're excited about them. They're really working hard. We're doing a lot. Game one, there's so much film to watch, so there's a lot to cover. But the guys are really working hard at it. Yesterday's practice was good. Meetings have been, very solid, and just excited to really get going. Going to Chicago, it's going to be a very tough environment, as you all know. It's a hard place to play. I know that stadium's going to be rocking. They've got a really, really good football team, explosive guys on the offensive side of the ball, and it's going to be a big, big challenge for us. So, we're just trying to string some good days together right now, good meetings, good walkthroughs, and good practices, and, looking forward to Monday night, though.
Ryan, as you go through the prep for Ben Johnson, how much do you lean on the Lions film from the past versus just expecting there's going to be different things with the new team?
Yeah, I think, first we start with, the players, for Chicago, obviously starting with the quarterback, Caleb. He's, poses a lot of problems, with his quarterback mobility, his arm strength, and his ability to just make the off-schedule plays, and then Swift in the backfield, and obviously DJ Moore and Rome, and the tight end grouping with Loveland and Komet. So they've got a lot of skill players, along with the O-line, and then you combine that with Ben, who we know well from Detroit. And there's some predicting, some forecasting, but you just we don't. No one has a crystal ball, so we don't know. What Ben's got cooked up or what his thought process is. I think for us, it's really more about fundamentals and techniques and, having good communication. Really, week one's normally about that. And that's really where our focus has been. Just, let's make sure we're aligned right. We've got, good hand placement, good footwork, good communication, and, I think if we do that, consistently over 60 minutes, hopefully we put ourselves in best positions.
What makes Ben tough to face as a play caller?
Yeah, what doesn't make it tough? It's the run game, it's the pass game, it's the play action game, it's the screen game, it's the, gun runs, under runs, under play action, gun play action. Anything, third down, red zone, all of it is, I would say, he does a good job of, putting it all together. Things that look like one thing, there's 2, 3, 4, 5 things out of it. So it really boils down to your techniques, your fundamentals, just your overall cohesion and communication, as a defense. A lot of it is trying to break that. He's done an incredible job, obviously did in Detroit. He's one of the great football minds in our game, and it's always a challenge to go up against him. And but we're excited also. It's a great environment, great atmosphere, and it would be a great challenge. But between the players and the coaching staff, certainly a big challenge.
Brian, how cool was it just to see Elijah Williams earn a roster spot? And how do you view the interior D-line group that you guys settled on?
Yeah, Elijah really did a fantastic job all the way through, from the rookie, the tryout, to, flashing there, and then, getting into meetings and getting into walkthroughs and practice, and, flashing a little bit more in drills. And it was just a great, he really took advantage of his opportunities and did some really nice things. And he just built. He built all the way through training camp, and it's one of those things early on, like, well, he's making a couple good plays, and maybe we have something here, or maybe it's a practice squad, and then it's like, well, hold on a second, and he just kind of built and did a lot of good things in preseason games, and the movement, the quickness, the tenacity, and then you get him in the building, and you know what kind of person he is, what kind of kid he is, what kind of worker he is. So there's this feeling that he's going to be able to develop even more so. So, kudos to him. But at the same time, as a young guy, and I feel like I have this conversation every year. For those guys who make it, which we had several undrafted guys make it and kind of late round guys make it. Hopefully that's not the pinnacle of their career, and they can take that, that situation or that the goal that they've made of making a team, and then continue to attack every day the same way. And I think he's done a good job of that.
How ready do you think Jalen Redmond is then to take that next step for Harrison Phillips?
I think Red has done everything he could possibly do to take that step. Whether or not that happens is we'll all find out and we'll all see. But he's certainly met the right way, trained the right way. He does a great job of meetings, walk through practice, individual drills, group drills, practice reps in game. Preseason wise, when he was in there, I thought he did some good things. So. We'll see how that all, shakes out. But he certainly put himself in position to have success.
Well, during the time that Harrison Smith was not in practice, did you, you've always talked about how unique he is in terms of how much he can handle for you. Did you at all attempt to sort of match the responsibilities that you give him, even if it's just to see if some of the other guys can do that, or do you view that as just completely unique to him?
Yeah, I think it's unique. I would say it's certainly unique to him. We not to say that we don't have other, highly intelligent, high football IQ guys. Metellus is a guy who comes to mind, but they play differently. He plays a lot of different positions. So if we, put him in Harry's spot, I think he could do that. But he's all over the place. So yeah, I think it's unique to him, and I think there's a lot of reasons why it's unique to him. Obviously, 14 years in the league, playing at a high level, just high-level acumen. No, we haven't said, hey, the next guy, you have to play like this. And every player is unique, I would say, in their, capacity, skill set, all those things. And then as coaches, our job is to, what is the skill set of, what's Kev's skill set? We'll say, he can do this, this, and this, and that's what we try to do. And the more capacity you have, the more we give you. Not to say that our guys don't have that, but it's hard to build all that, in a third or fourth year player, 10 more years of experience. So, yeah, I would say it's unique to him, and it was great to have him back, last couple of days, and we'll see how all that shakes out.
Brian, what's the difference between playing a 3-safety type of system versus playing in the nickel?
There's, several differences. I would say, the first thing that comes to mind is just, just man versus zone, bigger bodies in the run game, targeting offensively, who are we blocking, things like that. But, to me, it just boils down to, who do you think your best group is? If that's three corners, then you put those guys in with 2 safeties. If it's 3 safeties, and you put that group in, and you kind of call the game accordingly. I think we've got, good players in both rooms. And so we'll see how we mix that over the course of training camp and the spring. So we'll see how that shakes out, in game. And but I like our group. I think they've done a really good job. Sorry, I just realized I didn't talk about the rest of the D line. I just kind of talked about Elijah, but just speaking to the DB group, I think they've all done a great job. And I love the fact that we can either play 3 safeties or 3 corners, and and we're pretty seamless that way. Just depends on the matchups and how we see it working out for us.
Well, you can talk about the D-line now if you want to.
Yeah, as far as the rest of the group, yeah. That happens, I got all kinds of stuff on my mind, so sorry I missed that. But, as far as the rest of the group, J.A., Grave, I think Levi's done a great job. We talked about Redmond. We talked about Elijah, and Ty's done a nice job too. looking forward to seeing all those guys perform in game, and they're all doing great.
Brian, as good as Jonathan Greenard was last year, do you feel like there's another level to his game this year?
I think, when a guy's in his second year, he's a little bit more comfortable, has more of a feel for, the system, where he can take shots, where, we need him to, obviously play the technique, set the edge, or whatever that may be. But I think just from a football IQ standpoint, from an understanding of his skill set versus the skill set of other guys, he's certainly taken a step. And whether or not that translates, we'll see. But he's certainly a leader on our team. As voted by his teammates. I thought that was a great accomplishment for him, and shows his leadership, his just his overall growth, within the building. And look, I think he's still an ascending player. So yes, I do think there's more, and he's certainly worked to give himself an opportunity to make that happen. So excited for him.
Metellus was talking about how he's really enjoyed all the variety that you allow him to do in his game. But what have you noticed in terms of improving when you kind of open up where he can play all different positions? How have you seen him become a better player overall?
Metellus? Yeah, I've seen his growth, year after year after year. I mean, he's, from the first year I got here to now, there's been an incredible amount of growth, from a football acumen standpoint, from a physical standpoint, from a tackling standpoint, from a coverage standpoint, from a blitzing standpoint, and he works at all those things. And we try to put him in positions where we can, accentuate all his gifts, talents, and abilities. He's certainly gotten better, but I would say the one place is just his overall football IQ. We let him call some plays in the preseason game because he can do that. I think, way down the line, he's got coaching in his future, and, he'll be a really good one if he wants to do that. But he is, I really appreciate his voice in meetings. I know we've talked about this in the past, but, I like to create an environment where everyone, feels free to speak up and say, hey, what about this? What about that? What about that? And if anybody has a good idea, I don't care where good ideas come from. And, he's certainly a voice for, the back end and really in the backer room as well. That's, hey, if we do this, what about this? What do you think about this? And there's a lot of dialogue and back and forth. And I think that's good not only for him and the group, but also us as coaches, just to see that there's a level of intelligence there, of wanting to know the why behind what we're doing, that gives you, some comfort as a coach, I would say. So we're, really, really, fortunate to have him, and his growth from that standpoint has been very good. And I think, not to go back to Harry, but I think, 2-2 is a big part of that for sure.
Have you ever done that with a player? Had him call plays?
First time. I think, in the preseason, Durante calls plays, Ravo calls plays, Hutch called some plays the other day, and it was just something that, it just came up in conversation, and I just said, hey, I would have no problem with that at all. We ran it by KO, and it just, kind of organically happened. It's interesting because, the whole defense gets up, everybody's watching, they want to hear what he's calling, what's the call, everybody's tuned in. It was fun. And I love that because it's, I say this all the time, it's not my defense, it's not the coach, it's their defense. And, when a guy can call it and can take ownership of it, that is, how much more can you do than if you're calling it as far as from an ownership standpoint. And so that's good to see. And, when I say that, I hope it's not like coach speak. And I think there's an opportunity for us as a coaching staff to say, here, here it is, you have the keys. Make the calls and, there's good and bad there too. You know, you give up a big run and, you know, you're not feeling good, but, you know, you get off the field on third down, you're feeling great. And that's coaching. And it's funny, he's got the coach voice. He's like, what are we doing here? And, you know, it's good, you know, so he's a fun guy to be around for sure.
I think we had 4 now in this series. We've been great.
All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you, guys.